It takes 100 milliseconds for someone to decide whether you're worth listening to, not minutes. A tenth of a second. Research shows those snap judgments are remarkably stable, meaning the way you're perceived in that first fraction of a moment often becomes the way you're treated permanently. Being taken seriously isn't about what you say. It's about what others see before you've said anything, and most people never learn why. Social psychologist Nalini Ambady spent years studying what she called thin slices of behavior, brief, silent clips of teachers or doctors, sometimes just seconds long. In her meta-analysis, observers who watched these thin slices predicted real-world outcomes with a correlation of about 0.39, a moderate to large effect. It did not matter if the clip was 5 minutes or just 30 seconds. More time did not make judgments more accurate. The mind seizes on visible cues, posture, micro-expressions, tone of movement, and draws lasting conclusions almost immediately. In another set of experiments, Alexander Todorov and Janine Willis flashed faces for just 100 milliseconds. That is the blink of an eye. Participants rated trustworthiness, competence, and likability, and those ratings matched what they would say with unlimited time. The correlation between snap judgments and later impressions hovered around 0.7 to 0.8. Extending exposure to half a second made people more confident in their answers, but did not change the order of who seemed competent or trustworthy. These findings reveal a key pressure. The initial cues you send, often outside your awareness, can set a trajectory that is hard to reverse. For anyone who wants to be taken seriously, the window is brief, and the consequences are durable. Social psychologists Susan Fiske, Amy Cuddy, and Peter Glick introduced a framework that helps explain how people decide who deserves respect and credibility. According to their research, 2 factors dominate our social judgments: warmth and competence. Warmth answers the question, is this person friendly, trustworthy, and well-intentioned? Competence asks, is this person capable, skilled, and effective? Every first impression is filtered through this 2-axis map. If someone comes across as highly competent but low in warmth, they might be seen as smart but unapproachable or even threatening. On the other hand, high warmth without competence can read as likable but not credible. The most respected figures, whether in the boardroom or among friends, tend to land high on both axes. Their actions and words signal not just ability, but also approachability. This dual criteria model predicts who is granted authority, who is listened to, and who is quietly dismissed. Seriousness, then, is not just about projecting expertise, it depends equally on being perceived as trustworthy and relatable. This map underpins nearly every setting where credibility matters. Every time someone watches a colleague present or listens to a manager deliver feedback, the mind quietly works through a set of hidden calculations. Social psychologists Fritz Heider and Harold Kelly devoted decades to understanding these mental shortcuts, what they called attribution. When observers see behavior, they ask, often unconsciously, is this action driven by the person's character or by the situation? Kelly's covariation model outlines 3 diagnostic cues. First, consistency. Does this person act this way every time in similar situations? Second, distinctiveness. Is this response unique to this context, or does it appear across many settings? Third, consensus. Do others behave the same way in this scenario? The answers shape how seriously someone is taken. High consistency and low distinctiveness, always responding the same way everywhere, lead people to attribute behavior to stable traits. High consensus and distinctiveness shift the explanation to the situation. These attributions happen fast, and they color judgments of credibility, reliability, and authority long before anyone has a chance to explain themselves. The cues are subtle, but their impact on perception is profound. Jordan stands before a group of new hires, shoulders relaxed but upright, feet planted evenly. Without saying a word, his posture signals presence, open, balanced, and assured. When he begins to speak, his voice is measured and steady, never rushed or forced. Decades of research suggest these visible and audible cues matter more than most realize. In 2010, a team led by Dana Carney reported that adopting expansive power poses, like standing tall with hands on hips, boosted people's self-reported sense of authority. Later, a larger replication by Eva Rainhill and colleagues confirmed the psychological effect. People felt more powerful, but their hormone levels and risk-taking did not change. The evidence supports using posture to shift internal state, not to alter biology or guarantee outcomes. Vocal tone plays a parallel role. A meta-analysis found that lower pitch correlates moderately with trust and competence. About R equals 0.34, especially for men. Coaches working with professionals often focus first on posture and vocal presence because these levers are ethical, practical, and supported by data. Adjusting your stance and speaking with a steady, grounded tone can change how others interpret your seriousness within seconds. While these tools do not replace substance, they offer a reliable starting point for being heard and respected. A calm presence under pressure often separates those who command respect from those who are brushed aside. Emotional regulation is not just an internal process, it shapes how others read your authority in the moment. When stress rises, the ability to pause, reframe, or name what is happening can quietly reinforce boundaries without resorting to force or withdrawal. Decades of research led by James Gross show that cognitive reappraisal, mentally reinterpreting a tense situation, reduces visible distress and keeps responses measured. This is not about suppressing feeling, but about shifting perspective before reacting. Another approach, affect labeling, involves putting emotions into words. Studies by Matthew Lieberman found that simply naming a feeling such as anger, frustration, or anxiety reduces amygdala activity within seconds, softening the urge to lash out or shut down. In conversation, even a brief pause of about 300 milliseconds can serve as a buffer. Experimental studies found that inserting this pause before responding to an interruption or challenge increases ratings of competence and fairness. These micro-boundaries, practiced by leaders and skilled communicators, signal self-control and protect the conversational floor without escalation. As one HR leader put it, "The person who can stay steady when things get heated is the one people turn to for guidance." Composure and boundaries are not about holding back emotion, but about channeling it with intention. Reliability is rarely built in a single moment. Over time, the mind tracks not just what people say, but whether their actions match their words, again and again. In organizational research, repeated follow-through is often described as a costly signal. The logic, first articulated by economist Michael Spence, is simple. Anyone can make a promise, but only those willing to bear the cost of keeping it, especially when it is inconvenient or unnoticed, stand out as truly credible. In practice, this means that even small commitments, delivered consistently, accumulate into a reputation for seriousness that is hard to fake and even harder to undo. HR leaders point to this pattern when explaining why some employees are trusted with sensitive projects while others are overlooked. Reliability is less about grand gestures and more about the steady, visible pattern of doing what you say, when you say you will do it. Over months and years, this consistency becomes a kind of social currency, quietly separating those who are taken seriously from those whose words are treated as background noise. Certain habits, often unnoticed, quietly erode how seriously a person is taken. Common culprits include hedging, for example, the phrase "I could be wrong," but, or just my opinion, which signal uncertainty even before an idea lands. Over-apologizing, especially for things outside one's control, can dilute authority and shift focus away from substance. On the other end, attempts to force respect through aggressive interruption or bullying rarely succeed. Research on conversational dynamics shows these tactics often backfire, undermining both warmth and perceived competence. Speech analysis in professional settings highlights a pattern. The more a person peppers their language with disclaimers or unnecessary apologies, the less credible their message becomes. In a training session, Jordan's earlier habit of hedging every answer left his expertise in the background, making it easy for others to overlook his contributions. These are not dramatic failures. They are slow leaks, small signals that, over time, drain away authority. Belief is rarely invisible for long. In controlled studies, when managers subtly expressed high expectations, their teams outperformed peers by a significant margin, sometimes by as much as 30% in quarterly output. This is the Pygmalion effect in action. People tend to rise or fall to the level of belief projected onto them, but the loop runs both ways. Albert Bandura's work on self-efficacy shows that internal conviction, what a person believes they can do, quietly shapes how they show up, how they speak, and even how they hold themselves in a room. When self-perception shifts, so do outward signals. In a short experiment, participants who were led to expect success adopted more confident gestures and spoke with greater clarity, even before any feedback arrived. Over time, these signals reinforce outside perceptions, creating a feedback loop. As Jordan learned after deliberate practice, the change wasn't just in posture or tone, but in the subtle, steady way belief translated into behavior, and behavior in turn shaped how seriously others listened. Perception shapes opportunity, often before words are even spoken. In today's hyper-connected world, credibility is assessed in seconds and rarely reconsidered. The real influence lies not in appearing serious, but in mastering the subtle alignment of presence and intent. Authority now is quietly constructed. Share your thoughts below.